Hi and welcome back to another video of JPlay. I am Marcus, and the fine folks at Peakwik Dreams have asked me if I would be interested in doing a preview of their upcoming game Ynaros Fallin, which is the box cover you are seeing here. There is a solo mode, and that's the one I'm going to cover. There is basically the standard game is a 2-player game, 1 versus 1. There is a 4-player variant. Again, I'm covering the solo mode today, which is quite different to the multiplayer experience, maybe. Let's have a quick look at the stuff that you're not using when playing the solo mode. So you have all these magical lands that you're not using in the solo mode. Here are a lot more of those evocation dice, more tokens. These gates here is also something of the more advanced game. A lot of these crystals we are not using and whatnot. Of course, the solo game is introducing new stuff. And the solo mode comes, by the way, in the Ynaros Fallin Dark Adventures expansion, which also includes a dual mode, which is adding more, let's say, depth to the base game. The solo mode consists of missions, and I think in this book we have 7 missions in total. They are really changing a whole lot of stuff throughout, basically, let's call it this campaign here. The same is true for the normal multiplayer rules, by the way, where there are 3 levels included. So there's, let's say, somewhat more introductory level, still a lot to think through in this one. And then there is a level 2 and a level 3, and with each of those levels more stuff is getting added. Normally the game, again, is a 2-player game, and it's kind of an arena PvP kind of game. It's somewhat similar in here, but usually here you have some very specific goals to achieve. In this very first mission I'm going to cover today, I'm not 100% sure if I will be doing a full playthrough here, by the way, but in this particular scenario you're trying to move your little shaman here out of your hearth to the hearth of your opponent into their hut, and basically then carrying this poor little follower down back to your hearth in order to win the scenario. And you have to do that before you're either running out of your life points here or when time is running out. And in this case we have 10 turns in order to achieve that. And yes, you guessed it right, this game board, yes, the game board is dual layered. Haven't seen this before, but really works very, very well. Normally in a multiplayer game this is the experience tracker where you are tracking your victory points. In this case, again, it's only our timer. I think, again, as usual, I will cover everything or all the rules as I go. Maybe 1 or 2 more things to explain. In this solo mode we are using the solo player board here. Again, not too different from the multiplayer board. Some numbers are missing here, some values are missing here, because again you can score points in a normal multiplayer game. That's not going to happen here. I already made a decision to start the game with 3 of these divination crystals, which I can mainly use to deal with these drifting haze tiles. I will cover those a little bit later. We will start the game with 5 of these shadow cards. This is basically our lifeblood, and again they come in, I think, 3 flavors. The card is either in my color, and I'm playing as yellow in this case. It comes in the color of my opponent. This is the blue player in this case, and then there are also basically cards that work for either. So this is basically both a card that's working for me or for my opponent. I can use all these cards one way or the other, but typically having my cards is better, and yeah, works much better. I think one thing I already cheated here, I only start the game with 2 of these shadow tiles in here, which I will I'm not sure, maybe I will be able to show that to you in this scenario. As this is a Kickstarter, the usual disclaimers apply here. You are looking at prototype components, and I'm still using the deluxe version of the game. I'm not 100% sure what all is different, but I for sure know that these shamans or followers are basically somewhat different. So if you see basically this face without a mask, it's a follower. If you put a mask on this, and this works really, really well, actually, it's now, oops, that's the wrong turn around, sorry for that. It's definitely much easier to do normally. This is now considered to be a shaman. In the normal multiplayer mode you can evoke new followers, and you can promote followers into shamans. In this solo mode that's not going to happen. Maybe just to give you a comparison, these are the components as far as I understood from the normal game. So this is a shaman, this is a follower. Also works pretty well, I think, but yeah, this is definitely a nice mechanic with those those masks. For all of those scenarios or missions, there is a little bit of flavor to suck you into the mission here. I've had faithful followers. They have served me well, no matter the perils to be faced and the fights to be fought. I have used them as mere pawns when the stakes were higher. So I'm really not a good guy, it seems. The enemies ruthless and the future uncertain. They are not to be deserted, especially now when there is only one shaman to be followed, and it is I. And yeah, each of those missions have a little bit of fluff to give you some background, which I typically enjoy a big deal. So again, we are trying to move our shaman here. Normally these shamans start in the hearth. In this particular scenario, they're starting in the hut simply to make my way a little bit longer. Something that you're not using in the base game are those drifting haste tiles. For now, they're pretty much blocking our path here, so you cannot move through them, but there are ways to either activate them, deactivate them, and yeah, they do all kinds of stuff, good and bad. This is the main way how new monsters are going to spawn, but I'm relatively certain I will be able to show that to you. Also, a main difference to the multiplayer game, we are not really using a lot of these magical lands. The only magical lands we're using are these red tiles here. And I've shown you this in my introduction here, when we have a whole lot of these magical lands where you can conquer those. They will provide you one-time effects or ongoing special abilities to make this game very, very tactical. So the only magical land that is available, and it's only available to us, is this red one here, which we could use to save some time. Let's see if we are going to use it or not. I'm the starting player, and during my turn I can take up to 2 actions, but there's typically no reason not to take 2 actions, and then I can also take 2 free actions. There's a new free action in the solo mode here, which is display this divination crystal, which I will most likely going to cover in a minute. But you can move, you can draw shadow cards, your hand limit is 5, and you can play shadow cards and tiles basically as part of the same action. And I think with that being said, let's get cracking here. And one of my first thing might be actually to draw cards. So I think let's do that. We start the game with 5 and having more cards in our disposal. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Oh, only 2 yellow cards. Yeah, that's not pretty, but again, we can also use those blue cards here. They will still serve me well. With Mara's second action, I think I am going to move. And in order to determine my movement speed, I have to look at my shadow die. This is die that ranges from 2 to 7. I cannot go below 2. I cannot go beyond 7. So right now I have 4 movement points. So I'm moving 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, my idea is to move up here. And with another movement point, I could now flip this drifting haste tile face up. It would activate, but it would also hopefully unlock a path where I can't move out. Typically you can always move out. I have never stumbled upon a situation where whatever you would end up in a dead end or so. But I think I can still use my free action, and I think in this case I want to use one of my very, very valuable divination crystals here. Yeah, let's do that in order to have a peek under it. I could simply use it to flip it over, then I would basically save 1 movement point next time I'm moving, but I still think I want to peek there first, because if there is a monster on it, I may want to consider maybe moving another direction, right? So let's do that. So we have spent our crystal, we are looking underneath it. Okay, that's not too bad. Here we would gain a crystal, very, very valuable during combat, and these are basically difficult terrain for me. They work in favor for my opponent. These are black, so if they can move through that basically for free, I have to spend 2 movement points to enter one of these spaces. But that's an okay tile, so maybe I should have simply flipped it, but I didn't, so I'm not going to cheat here. Ultimately, those were 2 of my actions. After each movement action, you have to reduce your shadow die. So the next time I'm moving, I can only move up to 3 spaces, but of course there are ways to increase that die. Okay, wow, that was my very first turn. Relatively fast-paced game typically. And now it's over to my opponent, the monsters. And right now there's only 1 on the board, which is the shaman, but we can have more of those, and they are going to be activated here from left to right. So the next monster to be brought onto the board, it would be a follower, not as bad or brutal as a shaman. They will not actively attack me, but they will still steal stuff away from me. They will always move towards me. That's basically their whole game. They want to slow me down so that I'm losing the scenario. So they will constantly draw me into battles, steal stuff away from me, block my way, whatever. But the way how this works is they are rolling their shadow die, and it's the same die, 2 to 7, and then they will move up to that speed. Well, they will typically use their whole movement range. So let's see, we will roll that die, and that's a 4. I can live with a 4, I guess. And for the first movement points, because they are now adjacent to a flipped over haste tile, they have to activate it. They have no choice, they have to do that. Okay, there's no monster on it, that's definitely a relief, but there will be some crystals here. So a player who goes there will get a crystal of their color. They have 3 more movement points left. So this was 1 movement point to flip it over. This is 2 movement points. Then they're here, they were doing the 3rd movement point. And then this is okay, they will bring out an evocation token, and then they will basically move towards this space in here to steal that evocation token. This will help them during a future battle, which will happen sooner or later, but of course there is a monster, so we will bring this follower onto the board, and for each monster you're activating, they're also getting one of these dark crystals. Pretty brutal stuff. But that was their shaman. The shaman will always activate first. Unfortunately, now it's the follower, and yeah, they are allowed to activate right away. So let's take that die and roll it, and that's only a 2. Okay, that's nice. Here I'm not 100% sure how this works. Normally they would always move towards my tiles, or basically trying to get rid of these shadow tiles I'm placing, and I think that's also the case for these tiles here. At least I think that they are forced to move through this space. It's basically considered to be of my color, even though it's not yellow, but they are only turquoise and those red colors here. So in this case, I think they're only moving onto this space, spending their entirety of their 2 movement points. Okay, that was at least somewhat lucky. Okay, I like that actually. Let's see what happens next, because now it's my turn. And of course, the one thing I constantly forget is to reduce the timer. Maybe if I do that after their activation, is this considered a turn? Is my doesn't really matter too much. I should have done that. So we have already spent 1 turn with our very first action. So now it's back to us, and I think we are totally going to play some cards. And again, I can play cards of any color actually, and they will typically, for this action I'm going to do, it really doesn't matter too much. Question now really is, this is really interesting. This is really interesting, but I don't want to play yellow cards actually just yet. I think let's simply play 1, 2, 3, 4 blue cards. I can basically play any number of cards actually, but these 4 blue cards, I think they work. I think this is a good hand actually. But with 4 cards, I can increase my die respectively. So moving from a 3 to a 7. Again, color doesn't matter. I cannot go beyond 7. That's the maximum, but that's why I played these 4 cards. If I would have played yellow cards, so basically cards of my color, I would have also been allowed to place these shadow tiles onto the board. But right now, I feel okay actually. But again, this was my very first action. So with my second action, I think, yeah, we have to start motoring. We know that this was at least an okay tile. Problems, I don't know what's in here. Let's still do that. So for 1 movement point, we are flipping this one over. Yeah, exactly. It was this. Then we are placing a crystal onto this space like that. Then it's 2. Right, we are grabbing this die. 3, 4, 5, and am I going to do that? Should I use another divination crystal? Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could use divination crystal now, just to peek underneath it here, or do I take the risk? I could then move. Maybe, yeah. Let's spend this crystal here. So we are spending another divination crystal. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. We can do that basically as a free action. So again, 1 to flip it, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we are flipping it, 6. And then, yeah, I cannot move on here for 7, unfortunately. So I have to move in here for 7, but that's okay. This gives me 3 of these magical land, not magical, but I'm talking about these shadow tiles here. So maybe I should continue or start using those. But again, as we have moved, we have to reduce that die down to a 6. But that wasn't terrible at all, actually. That wasn't terrible. Let's not forget to reduce our tracker here. Problem is, it's not unlikely that these fellas here have monsters on them. And with 2 you can typically manage. With the 3rd monster, things are getting pretty nasty, actually. But okay, it's their go. And we are starting with the shaman again. So let's roll that die, and that's a 4. 1, 2, 3, and yeah, it doesn't matter. 4. That's a free movement for them, and again, they want to move as close as possible to me. At least that's my understanding. Okay, next. Oh yeah, the follower will most likely steal cards from me, but that's okay actually. But yeah, let's activate that follower. Let's not forget that. That's a 6. Yeah, I think so. So we are moving 1, 1, and 2. They're moving in here, and now I think they're rolling the battle die. I think they're rolling the battle die. This is how many cards they steal from me. And that's a 3, which, yeah, doesn't really matter too much which cards we are losing, but we are simply losing 3 cards. So that's definitely not so nice. But I still think I'm in an okay shape now, because now it's my go again. And I actually could consider to move twice, right? So we have now 6 and 5 movement points respectively. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe I'm only moving 1 actually, because then I would gain this crystal. I'm also not 100% sure. Yeah, I think no. I think the first player to go there will grab that token away. I'm relatively certain about this. I could draw cards and then move in here, and then I would be in a good shape to fight actually. Let's do that. So we are moving basically 6 spaces, right? 1, we can move out here without problems. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think let's do that, moving as quickly as possible. So we have 2 of these fellas in here. In theory, I could now consider to use one of my divination crystals to, for example, freeze this guy here. But I can still do that a little bit later. And here I'm not sure actually. He moved in here to attack me. I think a combat immediately happens. That's my understanding. Not sure if he would have been allowed to flip this tile, but now he will flip this tile. So, okay, if there is a monster, this would be really bad. But nothing I can do about it unless I'm spending the divination crystal on this guy. But right now I'm feeling okay actually. I have to reduce my die down to a 5. So I still have 1 more action. And I think with that action, we are drawing more cards, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I have shuffled the hell out of this deck. Are you kidding me? 5 blue cards. Okay, maybe I was a little bit too cocky here. But yeah, that's my go actually. So let's reduce the turn tracker here accordingly. So we are down to 7, and then we are going to activate our friends. Again, we are starting with the shaman. Rolling the die. Oh, 7. Yeah, they will reach me. I think in this case it doesn't really matter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, they are going to move in here. So we will see our first fight. But I think I'm in a okay shape. I have 2 of these crystals, which is definitely not nothing. They have 1 crystal, but also 1 evocation token here, which they are going to use for sure. So now let's have a quick look at the battle board here. We are using the advanced side of the battle board. There are 2 sides to that. This is also dual layered, by the way. Really nice. And the advanced side basically brings you down to the skull space much quicker. This skull doesn't really mean that you automatically lose the combat or so. That's not our goal of the game. You still want to be, let's say, higher in respect to the health at the end of the combat, and the combat ends until either a player passes, which you're typically not trying to do, or if one of the players runs out of cards in their hand, and then you are checking who is doing better in respect to health. So in this case, case, ooh, yeah, I think we are the, no, they are the attacker actually. Yeah, they have attacked us indeed. So they are going to go first. The first thing that they will always use is their crystal, but of course, let's not be too quick. So they will now draw 8 cards because I have 8 cards. They are drawing 8 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. If I would have less than 5 cards, they would still draw at least 5 cards. And then we are basically starting the combat, which means they are using their crystal, and in this case the crystal means they are rolling the battle die of their color. I believe there is no difference in colors, so let's see. That's a 3. I take it, I think 3 is, there are 2 3s on it or so, maybe, yeah, and 2 4s and a 5 or so. Can't quite remember. This is basically 3 points worth of damage they're doing. They will use their evocation token, which is in the solo mode simply a +2. In the base game or in the multiplayer game, there are way more effects that you can use, so definitely much more tactical. But in this case, you want to make things simple, right? Because you don't want to make too many decisions for the eye. So in this case, they're inflicting 5 points worth of damage, driving me down to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If the fight would now be over, let's say I wouldn't have any cards, then I would have to say fight is over. I would not automatically lose, because you lose automatically if you pass. If you say I don't want to fight anymore, you pass and then you lost. But something that you shouldn't really do. But if I would have no cards, then again the fight would be over and then he would clearly win the fight right now. They had 0 damage, I have -5, so I would lose. So there are 2 ways how to approach this. Either you heal yourself up, that's never a bad thing, or you can basically drive your opponent down. What am I going to do? Now there is also one thing to remember. If you are dropping ever to the skull here, you will automatically lose 1 resource, either a card or one of your crystals. So definitely something you try to avoid, because timing is everything in this case. So I guess, am I going to play a crystal, which would also allow me to roll the battle die, or would I start now playing some cards here? And I think I have 2 crystals, so I think I'm going to spend one of my crystals in order to roll my battle die. Unfortunately, I don't have any evocation tokens, which would give me a +2, but that's okay. That's also only a 3 which I rolled. And now I have to think, do I want to heal myself by 3 points, or do I want to damage the opponent? And I think right now I want to heal myself first. Let's do that. 1, 2, and 3. I think you typically move along this path, but I really find it more intuitive to really use these spaces here. But that's basically my combat action. Back to them. They don't have any more combat crystals, so they will now start to play their cards, and of course they are never going to pass. So we are playing 3 cards. This is a card of their color. We are playing this now. Let me put this a little bit differently. Let's put it like this. They're playing their first card now in a vertical position. Because it's a card of their color, it's 2 combat points. So very good start for them. Then we are drawing, hey, come on, another blue card. So that's now 4 points worth of damage they're doing. And then last but not least, they're playing another blue card. So that's 8 points worth of damage. The way how this works is basically you play this 3rd card here in the horizontal position, Stonehenge-like. So this is 2 points for them, 2 points for them, because it's a card of their color. If you then play a card, a blue card in their case, on top of these 2 columns or these pillars here, you are basically adding the 2 cards that are beneath it basically additionally. So that's 2 plus 2, though this card is worth 4 points plus the 2 here. That's 8 points worth of damage, which means I'm moving down here to the skull. So this is really a very, very nasty result now, which means we have to lose one of these cards here simply because of a punishment. But at least we know they have now used 3 of their cards out of the 8 they have. The problem is, again, if they're out of cards, then at that point in time they will end the combat, and then if they're doing better than us, we have lost the combat, and then very bad things will happen. But again, now it's back to me, and again I have to make a decision now. Do I want to move out now of this space, or don't I think I don't really. Do I have a reason to move out of this? Because what would happen is if I would be basically down to the skull again, I would lose another card. So maybe I would start hammering him. But I believe I really have to get out of this skull space. I really have to hope he's not pulling another of these 8ers now. Because otherwise was, yeah, this was really unfortunate that I was drawing very poorly here. So I will do the very same thing. I will play one card here, one card there. Again, I can play up to 3 cards, and then I will also play my card here on top of things. This is really so bad. So again, that's 2 plus 2 plus 4, 8 points. And in this case, I'm basically doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, moving all the way back up. Unfortunately, I cannot distribute things, so I cannot say I'm moving 6 spaces up and will make him lose 2 points. That's unfortunately not possible. But now it's back to the monster. They're going to play their 3 cards. Okay, that's at least something. That's only 1 point. I take that. That's 2 points. Cool stuff. And okay, they can't play basically a card of my color on top of this. So that's only 1, 2, 3 points. And again, they will always hit me. 1, 2, and 3. That's not bad. That's really not bad. So now I know he's down to 2 cards. So he can still do some damage with those cards, but it's not that bad actually. I might not end up on the skull space again. The problem now really is he started the game, right? Yeah, exactly. You're only ending if it's your turn and you're out of resources. So we really have to time this one through. In theory, I could play 3 of these cards, basically like this. And I still have 1 more card left. Oh, that's actually interesting. I think I have to do... Oh, I will... that's the problem. Can I kill him? That's the question. Can I kill him? I think I have to try that at least. There is a slight chance. So he's playing cards. So that's basically... I have 1 more go afterwards. Only 1 more go, right? After that. So that's okay. So we are playing these 3 cards here. So that's 1, 2, 3. Right now we are tied, which means I, as the defender, would win the scenario here. The problem is he's not defeated. I really want to drive him down to the skull space here. Because, because then he would be out of the game. And if that fella is out, this shaman, I think then I'm in a good shape. I think this needs to be my prime goal now. Problem is it's his go. He will play another card. That's another yellow card. 1 and 1. Okay, he's doing 2 points worth of damage to me. So I'm relatively certain that I will win, right? Because I would now use my crystal, my die, and that would definitely make 3 points worth of damage. The problem is, I think I will not be able to kill him this way. Oh, that's a bummer. Can I do something else? No, this 1 card is only 1. Then it would be his go. Then he would end the scenario and then he would have won. No, I think I have to. I have to spend my crystal now in order to roll that die. So let's see. And that's a 5! Are you kidding me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's so cool. Wow. Because now again, it's his go. He's out of resources. Wow, that's so cool. So he has to basically end the fight. Now we are checking who has lost less health. In this case, it's here. I'm on -5. He's on -8, which means they're all going back at the end of the battle. But this guy is out of the game for now. Of course, they could come back. Again, there are 2 more of those drifting haze tiles here. Oh, that's so cool. But still, I mean, they could be coming back. Wow, I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself. So I'm discarding all of my cards. Of course, I have lost all my crystals. That's at least a bummer, but I will take it for sure. And let's not forget, it's now the follower here who still gets to activate. And honestly, he could really immediately flip another of those monsters here. Let's see. Let's not start celebrating too soon. Let's see, and it's a 5. Okay, 1. We are flipping this. It's not a monster. It's not a monster. We have 4 more movement points, right? 5. It was 4. 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay. I think with my next action I should be able... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I cannot make it quite there yet. But honestly, there is really nothing now I can lose. Unless, again, there is something in here. If this monster later on flips this one over and it has a monster on it, then yeah, I'm still in a tough spot. The problem is I only have 5 more movement points. Yes, I could play this one measly card to make it up to 5, but I feel that this would be a waste actually. So again, I would now, I guess, start my turn or move twice, because again, this guy is not doing anything to us actually. And I think I will actually. So with my first action, I'm using 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Didn't quite make it. Then we are drilling it down to a 4. I will move again, so 1. And now my movement actions, because I'm carrying the follower with me, will simply cost me 1 movement point more. Not for each space I'm moving, simply for the movement space. So I had 1, I had in theory 3 left, so I only have 2 left. I think I'm allowed to continue my move while carrying that follower with me. But that's basically where I now have to send these fellas back home. I will use my divination crystal now to freeze this guy, so he's not allowed to move. Still, I need to reduce my turn tracker down by 1, but I still think I'm in good shape. Again, now the follower would activate, they can't activate, so they're simply losing that die. I would be now, I guess, drawing more cards and then maybe upping my movement die. Then this folk would move to me, would make me lose some stuff, and slowly but steadily I would now start to continue moving down here towards my hearth in order to win this scenario. Again, I was really extremely lucky that neither of those did have a follower on there. I think there are, how many are there? In the 12 tiles or so, and I think maybe half of those do have a monster on it. I really don't know that, but here was really extremely lucky. In some of my demo or testing games, I was much unlucky. And then I think I had to deal with 3 monsters right off the get-go, and then you're basically toast. That's something, yeah, I don't know if I like that huge impact of a randomness factor. Maybe you should start saying, okay, shuffle in 3 monster tiles in 8 of those or so, just to make this game a little bit more predictable, more tactical. And also, okay, I know that there are 2 more monsters underneath it, so maybe using my divination crystals more aggressively, let's put it like this. Also keep in mind I was playing on the easy mode, so if you're playing on the hard mode, you're not getting any of those divination crystals. On the normal mode, you only start the game with 1. So I really was extremely lucky here in my game. Again, I think I will stop my walkthrough here. I think you got a good understanding about how you are playing this game. I really do like the combat mechanic of this game. Playing these cards, timing those cards. You need to see how soon is an opponent going to end the combat. Where are we then? Do I weaken them? Do I strengthen myself? When do I use my crystals? And so on. So this is really something I do enjoy a big deal. And especially in the multiplayer rules, there are way more evocation tokens, which will then help you ultimately. And on top of this, again, there are these magical lands which give you all sorts of extra powers and special abilities which you can use throughout the game. So again, there will be other videos that will focus on the multiplayer game accordingly. I really hope you have somewhat enjoyed my little walk through here. Keep in mind the game should be now on Kickstarter actually, and yes, you will find a link to the campaign somewhere in this description below. Maybe it's popping up somewhere left or right, can't quite remember at this point in time. Huge shout out to all of my patrons and channel members out there. Really do appreciate all your support. And yeah, with that being said, hope to see you soon in one of my other videos, and until then, bye bye.